Mr. David was shocked to see Naomi's outfit go away again. His mind was racing with fear and doubt. Was someone having fun with his mind? He was determined to find out what happened, so he put a security camera in his car in the hopes of catching the criminal in the act. He couldn't get rid of the feeling that he was being watched that night as he carefully set up the camera. When he was done with the work, his heart was racing, and he kept looking around the dimly lit parking lot. Who might be behind this? He kept going over the last few events in his head, trying to figure out what they all meant, but nothing made sense. The next morning, Mr. David was excited to watch the videotape again. When he saw a dark figure coming towards his car in the middle of the night, he gasped for air. The person moved very quickly on purpose, reaching into the car to grab the uniform. As the person turned to leave, a weak reflection in the car window showed a clear logo on their jacket. Mr. David slowed down the video and zoomed in on the symbol. He knew it belonged to a youth group in the area. He had a lot of questions in his head. What makes someone in this group want Naomi's uniform? Was there something more to Naomi's accident? With this new information, Mr. David felt like he needed to act faster than before. Not only for Naomi, but also for his own peace of mind, he had to solve this riddle. At the hospital, Mr. Bry worried about his wife Sandra, who was finally getting some rest after a rough night. He couldn't get rid of the picture of the strange person he had seen standing next to Mr. David's car. Due to his desire to learn more, he kept a close eye on the hospital parking lot. At the same time, Tina and Deborah went back to the hospital after hearing that Naomi was doing well. As they walked down the hallway, they had a group of nurses talking about a strange event involving a school uniform that kept going missing and then coming back. Tina slowed down to hear more of what was being said because she was interested. While they were waiting, Mr. Bryce saw Tina and Deborah and waved them over. They talked about what was going on with Naomi and the strange events that were happening. When Mr. Bry talked about the strange person, Tina became even more interested. She chose to tell everyone what she had heard about the uniform going missing and how it was related to Mr. David's strange experiences. While they were talking, Mr. David walked into the hospital and looked clearly upset. He walked up to the group and showed them the video from his car camera, which showed the person with the unique symbol. The symbol reminded Tina of a local youth group that she works with as part of her community work, which made her gasp. "We need to figure out why someone from this group would be involved," Tina said with determination in her voice. "There has to be a connection to Naomi's accident." The determination on Mr. Bry's face was set as he nodded. "I'll keep an eye out here and see if that person shows up again. We need to get to the bottom of this, for Naomi's sake." The group agreed to work together and talk about any new facts that came up. Tina and Deborah said they would look into the youth group, and Mr. Bryce stayed alert at the hospital. As they said goodbye, they felt more determined than ever because they knew they were one step closer to finding the truth. As Mr. David looked over the video from his brand new car camera, he got a glimpse of someone nearby that he thought might be familiar. This person's clothing had a clear symbol on it that he had seen before but couldn't place right away. To find out more, he took a picture of the person and sent it to Tina, thinking she would recognize the symbol. Deborah and Tina met up at a nearby cafe later that same day. She showed Deborah the screenshot that Mr. David sent her. A woman named Tina said, "I've seen this symbol before. It's from a youth group that operates near Naomi's school." Deborah frowned as she looked at the picture. "Do you think someone from the group is involved in this mess? It's strange that a youth group member would be meddling with the uniform." Tina nodded, and her mind was already full of ideas. "There's only one way to find out. Let's visit the youth group's center and see if we can identify this person." They went to the youth center, which was a small building that was full of people. As they walked in, the group's leader, a nice woman named Mrs. Harris, welcomed them. Tina showed her the image and told her what was going on. Mrs. Harris's eyes got big when she saw it. She said with worry in her voice, "That's Jacob. He's a good kid, but he's been acting strangely lately. I didn't realize he was involved in something like this." Deborah and Tina looked at each other. She asked, "Can we talk to him?" Mrs. Harris said yes. "He's here today. I'll get him for you." A few minutes later, a teen who looked nervous came up to them. Jacob moved around a lot as he stood in front of them, looking all over the room. He asked in a voice that was barely above a whisper, "Is this about Naomi?" Deborah and Tina looked at each other again, feeling like they were about to find out something important. "Yes, it is," Tina said in a soft voice. "We need to understand what's going on, Jacob. Can you help us?" After he thought about it, Jacob slowly nodded. His voice was shaking as he said, "I didn't mean to make trouble. I was told to take the uniform by someone who said they'd hurt my family if I didn't." Deborah leaned forward and asked, "Who told you to do this?" Jacob took a deep breath. "A man named Mr. Cole. He's connected to some shady business. Naomi and her friend were investigating him before the accident. They found out he was involved in something dangerous, and now he's trying to cover his tracks." Tina felt her heart sink. Something more than just an accident was going on. This plot was very dangerous. She told him, "Thank you for telling us. We'll take it from here. Stay safe and don't do anything else for Mr. Cole." Tina and Deborah felt a mix of fear and drive as they left the youth center. As they got closer to the truth, they knew they had to be very careful because their enemy was strong. Back at the hospital, Mr. Bry and Sandra got a call from a number they didn't know. Even though the voice on the other end was shaky, the message was clear. They knew where Naomi was before the accident and had important information. With no other choice, Mr. Bry wrote down the caller's address and planned to follow up on it. Sandra looked at her husband with a mix of hope and fear as she tried to get over her mental problems. "What did she ask?" her voice shaking. "Do you think this could help us find answers?" Mr. Bry nodded, but he was very worried inside. "We have to try, Sandra. For Naomi." They went to a rundown part of town after following the tip. They found an empty building as they got closer to the address. They found proof inside that Naomi had been looking into something dangerous. There were papers all over the place, photos of the people she had been watching, and notes explaining what she had found. Sandra chose a picture of a man she didn't know. She showed it to Mr. Bry and asked, "Who is this?" He looked at the picture. "I don't know, but we need to find out." This could be the key to understanding why Naomi was targeted. Once they got back to the hospital, Tina and Deborah were putting together what they had learned from Jacob. They found out that Naomi and her friend had found a shady business deal involving Mr. Cole, a well-known and important person in the city. Naomi was in danger because of this finding, which led to her accident and the attempts to stop any investigation into what happened. Naomi's parents came back to the hospital with determined looks on their faces. By telling Tina and Deborah what they had found, they were able to start to put the pieces together. The picture that came together was scary. Naomi had been picked on because she was getting too close to the truth. Tina said in a calm voice, "Mr. Cole must have known Naomi was dangerous. We need to gather more evidence and confront him directly." Naomi talked about a school friend who might know how to solve the mystery as soon as she woke up. Naomi and this friend, Lily, had been working together on the case. Tina chose to go see Lily and ask her what she knew. Tina found a scared but determined girl at Lily's house. Lily confirmed that she and Naomi had been looking into Mr. Cole and found a lot of proof that he was doing bad things. She gave him a USB drive with files that showed the shady business deals. "This is what we worked on," Lily said. "We knew it was dangerous, but we didn't realize how far Mr. Cole would go to silence us. Now that they had this new proof, Tina and Deborah went back to the hospital, ready to take the next step in their quest for justice. Tina and Deborah knew they had to act quickly once they had the USB drive with important proof on it. The files showed Mr. Cole's shady business dealings and named several well-known friends. They chose to give the proof to the police, but they were also aware that Mr. Cole's network might be angry about it. When they got back to the hospital, they told Mr. David, Mr. Bry, and Sandra about the new proof. "We need to be very careful," Tina told her. "This evidence is explosive, and Mr. Cole won't take kindly to us exposing his crimes." Mr. David nodded, but his face was sad. "We need to ensure our safety while we bring this to the authorities. We should also inform the hospital security about the potential danger." The group agreed to be careful going forward. Mr. David took the USB drive to a lawyer he knew and trusted to make sure they were safe. The proof shocked the lawyer, Mr. Collins, but he promised that he would handle the case in private and call the police. At the same time, Tina and Deborah worked to keep Naomi safe. They met with the hospital's boss and told them about the possible danger. To protect Naomi and her family, more safety steps were put in place. Tina and Deborah chose to go to Naomi's school while they were waiting for Mr. Collins to set up a meeting with the cops. They wanted to learn more about Mr. Cole so that their case against him would be stronger. They talked to Naomi's teachers and friends at school to get a better idea of what was going on with her research. Mrs. Evans, one of Naomi's teachers, said that she had been very interested in a nearby business that Mr. Cole owned. She asked a lot of questions about their operations and seemed convinced something illegal was happening there, Mrs. Evans told us. Deborah and Tina chose to go to the workshop. They asked to be shown around the facility while pretending to be neighborhood volunteers. While on the tour, they took notes and pictures in secret and saw some strange things going on. The workers looked tense, and scary security guards blocked off parts of the building that weren't for anyone. When they got back to the hospital, Tina and Deborah told Mr. David and the rest of the group what they had found. "We have enough evidence to expose Mr. Cole's operations," Tina told us. "But we need to be strategic about how we release this information." In the evening, Mr. Collins called them. He said, "The police are ready to act. But we need to coordinate carefully to avoid tipping off Mr. Cole. Let's meet tomorrow morning to finalize our plan." The group agreed, but they were both scared and determined. While they were aware that they were about to face a dangerous enemy, they were determined in their quest to secure justice for Naomi and safeguard their community. The group got together at Mr. Collins' office the next morning. As they talked over their plan with the police officers there, the mood was tense. Raids were planned to happen at the same time at Mr. Cole's factory and office to make sure he couldn't hide or destroy proof. As the plan came together, Mr. David, Tina, and Naomi's parents, Mr. Bry and Sandra, got ready for the fight. Even though the police told them they would be safe, they could not deny the risk. Because he wanted to make sure Naomi got justice, Mr. David insisted on being there during the search. The cops arrived at the set time, and the group split up into teams. The officers went to Mr. Cole's office with Mr. David and Mr. Bry, while Tina, Deborah, and Sandra went to the factory for work. As soon as the simultaneous activities started, you could feel the tension. Tina and Deborah were at the factory when the cops broke in. The protection staff was caught off guard and quickly put down. Tina's heart was racing as they went into the restricted areas and found secret rooms full of illegal papers and proof of the shady business deals. When the workers saw the cops, they started to talk, giving more information that could be used against the boss. At the same time, Mr. David and Mr. Bryce stood with the cops as they talked to Mr. Cole in his office. Even though he tried to deny everything, there was just too much proof against him for him to be successful. When the cops tried to arrest him, he screamed at them and said he would get even. "You'll feel bad about this," Mr. Cole growled. You have no idea who you're dealing with. Mr. David took a step forward and spoke calmly. You've hurt too many people. It's time you faced the consequences. People in the group felt a mix of joy and fear as Mr. Cole was led away in handcuffs. A big threat had been stopped, but the danger wasn't completely gone. The riddle of Naomi's uniform was finally solved when Mr. Cole was caught. A teenager named Jacob, who had been forced to take the outfit, came forward with more details. He said Mr. Cole had worn the uniform to make things more complicated so he could hide his tracks for a while. Jacob told Mr. David and Naomi's family he was sorry now that he wasn't under Mr. Cole's control. I'm so sorry for what I did. I was scared for my family, but I never wanted to hurt anyone. Mr. David put his hand on Jacob's shoulder to make him feel better. You did the right thing by coming forward. We'll make sure you're safe. It was easy to prove Mr. Cole guilty because there was strong proof from both the factory and the office. The police said they would do a full investigation and bring charges against him and his friends so they would be held accountable. Back at the hospital, Naomi's family felt better when they heard that Mr. Cole had been arrested. Mr. David finally met Naomi's parents in person and apologized for the accident while telling them what had happened. During the emotional meeting, Naomi's parents thanked him for always looking for the truth and making sure Naomi was safe. Naomi's healing went smoothly, and she was soon able to leave the hospital. As Mr. David, Tina, and Naomi's family went through the same thing, their bond got stronger. They agreed to stay in touch and help each other out while Naomi continued to get better. Naomi is seen happy at the end of the movie, with her parents, Mr. David, and Tina around her. People are feeling hopeful and like they can start over. Mr. David and Tina promise to stay in touch with Naomi's family, which is a reminder of how strong human connections are and how important it is to be strong when things go wrong. Please share this video with your friends and give it a thumbs up if you liked it. Click that subscribe button and ring the bell if you haven't already.